It is 6 o'clock and the Kerrville City Council is in session. Let's stand for the invocation and for the pledge. Father, we often pray for discernment, that good, solid decisions can be made. And Father, we pray for that once again and ask for your guidance. Lord, tonight and all the time, we pray for our first responders, locally, but around the country. And for our military employed around the world tonight. And Father, also for those civilian employees at embassies and working on U.S. projects. We pray for their safety and for their effectiveness. In Christ's name, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let me go over a couple of matters just in how we proceed. If anyone present wants to speak on an agenda item, they need to sign up and present a speaker request form to the city secretary here in advance of the item being read into the record by the city secretary. When speakers are called, they are to come to the microphone in front of either standing area and begin by stating their name and address for the record. Note that public comment periods are for the council to set aside time to specifically hear from you. Any questions that you might have will not be responded to until after the public comments have been concluded. Thank you in advance for a good and solid meeting. At this time, with some announcements of community interest, Mr. Cunha.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and welcome to everybody tonight. We have just a few things to go over. Some things that happened last week that we want to make sure everybody knows about, and then a couple of things that are coming up this week. The Safe Kids demonstration took place last week. Our department hosted 5 days of Safe Kids car demonstrations at 5 different sites around Kerrville. They were demonstrating how quickly an automobile can heat up during summer conditions. I hope that you guys got to get out there and see that. It's pretty amazing to see how fast that temperature can go up inside a car. Obviously, we encourage citizens to never leave children and pets in a hot car, and that demonstration certainly showed why. All right, some parks activities. We capped our concerts by the river last Friday night. We've had 3 of those this summer. We're done until, I guess, next year. But each concert drew a bigger crowd. Really happy with the turnout. Really happy with the bands that performed. It was a great time. So I hope everybody got a chance to at least take in one of those. And what does Parks have coming up this week? Well, we have the 75th annual Heart of the Hills tournament. So you guys are going to see a lot of golfers in town this week. 200 golfers. 60% of those are from out of town. So that's good for local hotels, local businesses, local restaurants. So we're really happy about that. Be friendly to those people when you see them around town. It's a great event every year. We're glad to have it back. And I think that's one of our KPD. That's Zach Martin over there playing from a few years back. So, great event. Glad to have him back. And last but not least, the library is winding down. We have a couple of youth family movies. Charlotte's Web will be next Monday, August 2nd. That's 2 p.m. in the library. And then August 9th, we have The Never Ending Story, also at 2 p.m. If y'all don't know about that, that's it's a heartwarming saga about the I-10 construction near Bernie. We've also got a couple of adult programs. We definitely want to point out our night sky. The Hill Country Astronomers will be discussing the upcoming, and I don't know if I'm saying this right or not, Forsyths meteor shower, and then there are solar eclipses occurring in both 2023 and 2024. If you had a chance to read about the 2024 one, it's going to come right over us. We're going to be in darkness for how long?
4 minutes.
4 minutes. So we're already starting to prepare for that, but they'll be talking about that, and that'll be interesting. So that's it.
All right, thank you. I've got one, and I wish I didn't have to mention this, but I think it's important. We got the issue of COVID once again in our community and across the state and the country. I was on a call this afternoon with mayors and county judges from around the state with the Texas Department of State Health Services. And they said we're seeing an alarming rise in the COVID illness and hospitalizations. But the good news is there is an ample supply of the vaccine. There are also the TDS, through Department of State Health Services, there's $150 million available to help communities in the vaccination process. And but also, there's $10 million for community organizations, churches, and nonprofits through Texas A&M. And that will be announced tomorrow and on their website. But they recognize that those local organizations can really make a difference in this whole process. So, all right, let's go to the visitors.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead.
If I may, please.
Yeah.
I have a couple things I'd like to mention. We had a successful food distribution drive yesterday with the San Antonio Food Bank, and had lots of the regular people who come to volunteer, but also had a large group of high schoolers from Comfort. So we thank them. And in relationship to the Doyle community, our building is getting close. We should be finished about the end of August, and so we are excited. And we'll have a grand opening in October, so we'll have dates for that later on. And then I just wanted to mention, last but not least, with the Food Relief Fund that we had started excuse me, during COVID, we have had a few more donations. That has had a total of $146,000 that has been given then to some of the local not-for-profits to help with that food distribution. So it's we just thank the community for their generosity.
Mayor, can I mention something regarding Kerrville Pets Alive? They have a couple of events coming up. They have a half-price kitten and cat adoption event at Kerr County Animal Services. And they also will be doing a microchipping. They'll be microchipping dogs for free at the Wash and Wag Chip and Dip event at the Olympic Pool on August the 14th from 5 to 7. So get your pets chipped.
All right, good. Okay. All right, we come to the Visitors Citizens Forum. This is the opportunity for citizens to address the council on any item not related to another specific item on the agenda. And no discussion will take place in regard to this or any action, but things may be referred to the staff for a later discussion or action. Ms. McElhannon, has anyone signed up to speak?
Yes, sir, we have 6. Delane Sigerman.
Delane Sigerman, 4000 Comanche Trace Drive. Before I get started, I just want to say good evening, Mayor and council members. And I personally can say thank you for your service because I know exactly how much energy and time it takes to do your job. So thank you very much. I just want to say that in 2018, I am in support of the Certificate of Obligation for the Public Safety Building. And I have been since 2018, which goes on almost 4 years, because in 2018, I was on city council, and the then current chief police, David Knight, invited me to come take a tour. Well, throughout the tour, I was quite surprised at all the things that weren't working in the building, weren't functional, weren't up to par, didn't have space. That doesn't even include some of the issues with the roof and some of the other problems with the building. So I came back and spoke with the city manager and said, we got to do something about this. And now we are 3.5 years later, and we're still talking about what to do. So I think it's a matter of urgency that we take care of finding a solution, and it's always about funds. So I do support the Certificate of Obligation because I believe now with interest rates as low as they are, we can't afford to wait. And the building and the police officers can't afford to wait. So with all the amenities that we have in Kerrville, like the new sports complex, the 6 miles of walking trails, the recently renovated tennis center. We have a lot of work for our police officers to do to protect and serve our city as we grow. So in order to show them that we want them to have the tools that they need, one of which would be a building that they can work from. I support, as a taxpayer, as a citizen, a voting citizen of Kerrville, I voted for you guys. I hope and trust, I know your decisions will be good ones when it comes to voting for this, so I recommend and support the vote yes for the certificate of obligation for the public safety building. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Siegerman.
Thank you.
Sandra Yarbrough.
Sandra Yarbrough, 2245 Sandra Center Drive. I come here as a citizen, taxpayer, and a former employee who has witnessed all the transactions in the buildings, repairs, upkeep, maintenance, and like that. And several years ago, in the late 80s, the city decided to go for pay-as-you-go plan. It did not work because all these other things take precedence over it. And so we didn't accumulate the money as we planned, and so we went back to C of O's. The police and municipal court moved into the current building in the mid-90s, around 95. And within 3 years, they were full. They didn't really have room to expand, and so after a while, they moved municipal court out because when they had court days, there was people in the lobby, and they impeded the traffic there. Both buildings have had numerous repairs and maintenance, and it's just a money hole that it keeps going down. Then in 2005, the fire department moved their administration over on Coronado Drive, and we've been paying rent ever since. And that's just throwing money away, and we have nothing to show for that. So pay as you go we have, but we have nothing for that. And then the fire department, that one, and I think it's time to stop the bleeding. It doesn't impact the property tax rate. And the financial advisor that we have is very experienced. She will not put us at risk. She will not put herself at risk. And I think it's time to do this, move forward, and give the citizens something that when they go into the building, they feel comfortable there. They're not worried about something falling, breaking, or whatever. If you think about what happened in Florida, we don't need that here. I support the issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yarbrough.
Bethany Puccio?
Good evening, City Council members, Mayor, and City staff. My name is Bethany Puccio. I'm at 418 Crest Ridge Drive, Kerrville. I'm here representing a group of citizens from the City of Kerrville that would like to begin a conversation with you tonight about the new public safety complex project. Our message is simple: stop issuing debt without voter approval. We have begun a petition by the citizens of the City of Kerrville to stop the certificate of obligation you intend to issue on August 24th for $7 million, and instead, place it on the ballot at the next election so we, the citizens of Kerrville, can vote on it. We understand that the need to repair or replace our police department has been known since 2016. We understand that the feasibility study for this project was completed at the end of 2019. A certificate of obligation is intended for emergency funding. If this is an emergency, why have we been sitting on it for so long? It's because this is not an emergency. We are not saying that it is not a need or that it should not be done. We are saying that the correct way to approve this project is to place it on the ballot so the people who are going to pay for it can vote on it. I know you said last meeting that this conversation has just begun, but in looking at the history of this project and past budget detail, can you honestly say that you have just begun the conversation? This could have been placed on at least 2 prior ballots. It could easily be on a special November ballot, as was the charter amendment vote. All we are asking is that you let us participate in this process. We want to be part of the conversation. It has been over 30 years since the citizens of Kerrville have been asked to approve the debt we pay for. We would like to have that end now. In the last election, one of the issues that distinguished the 2 candidates that were running was this certificate of obligation. Councilman Garcia was against the issuance of this debt, but instead believes it should be placed on the ballot and put before the voters. His win in the election shows that many people in Kerrville agree with that position. By not placing this on the ballot and letting us decide, we have to wonder, do you not trust us to get involved with the debt we are going to pay for? Let us vote. Stop issuing debt without voter approval. The citizens of Kerrville can be trusted. We love our law enforcement, we care for our city, and we can be trusted with our money. We have a website where Kerrville citizens can go for more information or to find out how to sign the petition. We can be found at letusvotekerrville.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Puccio.
George Baruti.
George Brody, 1616 Glen Road. So I'm going to talk about three things, and oddly enough, it's not really going to be that last topic. First one is it's grown into a pet peeve. The light at Earl Garrett and Water Street. We turned it on to a flashing light. Great idea. Most places do that in the middle of the night. We turned it on flashing from about 8 o'clock at night till midnight. At midnight, it goes right back to red, yellow, green. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's what we're doing. So if somebody could look at that and see maybe why. The other thing does have to do with the CO. I've emailed council already, so I'm just going to ask the question here. The CO notification said that we're going to borrow up to $7 million at an estimated 2.86% interest rate for 30 years. And it says in the notification that that's going to create a payout, principal and interest over 30 years of $12 million. You plug those numbers into an amortization calculator, you come up with 10.4 million. So the question is the notification correct in the parameters it's putting in there? It doesn't appear to be, or something's being left out. If somebody could please let us know so that the notification could be corrected, or slow down before you know what you're doing. The last thing has to do with the bricks that everybody's been talking about, the memorial bricks. It seems like everybody's creating a solution to a problem that didn't exist. The bricks are broke, that's true. But the problem that we're trying to solve isn't to find out what to do with the bricks. The problem should be what to do about revitalizing the memorial that we committed to keeping maintained forever. When they originally bought those, they were bricks, okay? I would have thought that I'm buying a brick that's going to last forever. Even the Three Little Pigs knew, House of Straw is going to go down, House of Sticks is going to go down, but the brick's going to stay up forever. So we shouldn't be removing them and putting them in a closet. I heard about the solution, to put them at the back patio of the arcade, or maybe even in the front door, or memorialize the names that way. There's a simpler one. Along Water Street, on the south side, that's where all the broken ones are. Okay, there's about less than 700 bricks there. They're not all broken, but let's just say they are. Across the street on Water Street, along the corner of Water Street and Earl Garrett, on the border of Shriner Department Store, is about 1,600 blank bricks. The Water Street sidewalk with the bricks isn't even a sidewalk. If you're familiar with it, it's on a down step, so nobody walks on it. It's just there. The Earl Garrett Street side has like a 8 or 10 foot sidewalk before you get to the bricks. Perfect spot for them. When the people bought them, they weren't just buying a brick. They were buying a legacy, essentially. A lot of them put their kids' names on these bricks or whatever. If we kind of turn our back on that commitment, what else are we turning our back on? So to the article that you wrote, Mr. Mayor, it is actually a cancellation of a memorial. And so we wouldn't do that at a person's grave. Oh, hey, we can't keep up with the maintenance of the grave site, so just, we're going to dig up the bodies here. Come pick them up if you want them. We wouldn't do that. So let's just fix the bricks. They've already pitched into the city. Let's just keep them there. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Baruti.
George Hammerline.
Good evening. My name is George Hammerline. I live 1024 Cielo Drive. And I'm just here to also encourage people, or the council, to allow the public to have a vote on the certificate of obligation in a form of a bond election. The difference between you approving it in August before the September 1st bill from the legislature kicks in, which makes it less advantageous to write it off on your ad valorem rollback rates, But the difference between August and November, as far as planning a multi-million-dollar business or building project, really won't have any meaningful impact on as far as when the building will be ready. And once again, COs were originally designed according to legislative intent for emergency use. Well, if this is an emergency, it's been in the making for 5 or 6 years at least. So it doesn't seem like really defines an emergency. It's just seemed like kind of a slow burn for years and years. So an emergency, most people think is an earthquake or a flood or something when you have to bring stuff back to standards immediately, not just that, well, we bought a building maybe we shouldn't have years ago and the maintenance is slowly decaying. And I'm not really sure why you'd be afraid of the voters. TML will show you that over 80% of all municipal bonds pass. So, I mean, it's a fairly safe thing. And I would think you'd have confidence in making your case to the voters. And I think, having the public buy-in is always a better case. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hammerline.
Bruce Strachey.
Bruce Strachey, 615 Earl Garrett, here in Kerrville. Kerrville is a great place, and we're seeing a lot of activity here in Kerrville, and that's a big part that you all are leading us on with all that we're talking about with residential development, and there are a number of big projects that are being worked on through the city. And I just want to remind everybody what a great place this is to live and how we need the workforce and such. In our office, we work on those residential developments and such. And so I just want to thank you all for the great job you're doing. And then it's interesting to me that we're talking about process, and we're using some misinformation to talk about that process. And it's frustrating to me when I hear about the difference between general obligation bonds and certificates of obligation. And what I keep hearing about is emergencies. But I happen to look at the comptroller's website where they talk about how these were initially authorized. And initially, right from Glenn Hager's office, initially certificates of obligation were authorized for cities, counties, and hospital districts to use to fund construction, demolition, or restoration of structures, purchase of materials, supplies, equipment, machinery, buildings, land, and rights-of-way, and related professional services. COs are issued for terms up to 40 years and are usually supported by property taxes or other local revenues. COs often are associated with emergency spending, but their use isn't restricted to such purposes and can be used to fund public works as the part of standard local government operations. This idea that this was only created for an emergency is a misuse of the facts. It's, what do they call it? False news. What do you people call it? You call it the whatever it is, the partisanship. What's that? Who are you? The people that have spoken here against this, saying that it's only for emergencies. Does that help clear that up? You people. So it's not, what is it, fake news. That's the phrase that we like to hear from the partisans. I'm really disappointed to see when we have a year when we're retiring debt that we're using partisanship. If we look at the last 30 years, which has been referenced, our credit rating is higher than it was before the city started using the certificate of obligations. We have a AAA or a AA rating right now today because this city and the budget department and the staff and the council have managed our debt incredibly well because they have the knowledge and they're looking at it every single day. There's an entire staff in the budget department that is looking at how to retire debt and save us money. And they have done that effectively. In the last 10 years in Kerrville, more than 10 years, the tax rate in Kerrville has dropped while the tax rate in the county has risen. We manage our property taxes here very well. This council and those before it have done an absolute wonderful job of listening to professional staff and managing debt well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Strachey.
Thank you, Bruce.
That's the end of the speakers.
All right, let's move to the consent agenda. And are there any items to be pulled by council?
I will request to pull item 3A, 3B, and 3D.
3A, 3B, and
3D.
3D, okay. All right. Then we will go to 3A and consider that first.
And I'll move, is it okay we take a motion up to approve the rest?
Sure.
I'll move to approve.
Actually, can I ask Mrs. McElhannon, are there any citizens that requested items to be pulled?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Then I'll move to approve item 3C, 3E, and 3F.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Got a second? All in favor? Raise your hand. Okay. All right. Now, let's go to 3A, and are you going to speak to that?
I'm just here for any questions.
All right, okay.
So a lot of my questions, I have some here. So the two bids that were presented in our packet, are those the lowest of the two, or lowest of the four that were
So
presented?
this project is kind of, or product is kind of unique. Those are really the only two qualified in the state of Texas to do this.
That was gonna be my next question.
So there is a little infiltration up in the panhandle from what we're hearing from a company out of Missouri. So that's, these two bids, sometimes we only get one, but these two bids are pretty much what we're gonna see until we get a little bit more qualified contractors to bid on this.
And according to the information that we received from our engineering firm, they concluded that Viking Construction was the lowest bidder, not only that, but also the best qualified. So
So
what's,
not necessarily best qualified, but in the sense of they've met qualifications. Both have done work for us. I believe the last 2 years was Intermountain. The previous 2 years to that was Viking.
okay,
So the nice thing, at least it's not sole source. So we do have some competitive bids. When you go look at the streets, you don't notice any different. The crews do a great job of getting out in front, notifying people, just as they will with this one. They try to make sure that every resident is accommodated as best as possible.
and to the best of your knowledge, do you know if there are any main differences between the two? We have Viking and Intermountain.
No, really, it's Intermountain is based out of Utah, but they have I believe their main office in Texas, Louisville. Viking, I believe, is more Texas-based, and so that's about the only difference. Like I said, once they're done, you won't even notice a difference. The road looks the same.
And I can't recall, but have we gone with them before if we've ever done it, or
What's that?
Viking?
Yes. So 2020 and 19 was Intermountain. 18 and 17 was Viking.
Gotcha.
And then prior to that was Intermountain, I believe, once or twice before that.
Gotcha.
So it's a nice little fluctuation, keeps the bids a little bit more competitive, a little bit lower for us. And actually, just I don't recall if I put it in this one, but last year, or in maybe previous year, Intermountain really kind of had the market here in Kerrville because Viking had some large contracts in Dallas, San Antonio. And so we got a little bit better bids on a square yardage basis. And that's what's nice is we want the competition, but we also want qualified contractors.
My last question, I don't know if it'd be for you or Mr. Hoppy, but is there a reason why we don't have a copy of the contract for review too, that we're gonna consider to authorize you to sign?
It's a standard one that's in city secretary's office.
Yeah, it's a standard public works contract, and so we do leave that in the city secretary's office for viewing. We don't put it in the entirety of the packet because it's a lengthy document, and it's basically just filler, essentially, or a standardized contract.
Okay, perfect, thank you. That's all I had.
All right, any other questions on 3A? Okay, do I hear a motion on 3A?
I'll move to approve item 3 and authorize the city manager to execute the contract.
Okay, all right, second?
I'll second.
Second, I'm sorry.
All right, all right. All in favor, let it be known by the raised hand. Okay, it passes unanimously. 3B, Mr. Garcia?
Have a switch of staff. Awesome. Okay, so just clarification kind of for the public. We have, and then I have a question kind of after this. So we got, the Cali Foundation gave a grant of $500,000 in 2 payments. One was, I guess, the first $300,000 and the second $200,000. And the first payment of $300,000 was used for the softball lighting. Is that right? Okay, and then this one's gonna be proposed for the turf improvements.
Correct.
Perfect. Okay, so are we estimating to have anything left over afterwards? I mean, did we have anything left over after the first 300,000? And if so, putting those two together, what are we planning on doing with the remaining funds?
Yes, we are planning to have leftover funds from the second portion of the grant,
Okay.
which will be utilized to purchase and install a playground on the soccer side of the complex, in
Okay.
addition to purchasing additional mounds on softball and other capital improvement items at the sports complex.
Awesome. And did we only receive one bid proposal for this?
This was procured through TIPS, which is a purchasing cooperative.
Gotcha.
They do a competitive bidding process, so it's pursuant to state law and purchasing policy, it satisfies it.
Okay. And then one of my last questions is recently my family went to a baseball tournament and we noticed that the individuals I think the host of the tournament was kind of just talking to us about their turf and in fact how the business that did their turf went out of business because of COVID and that they no longer, and that even during the time they didn't have a warranty or guarantee on the maintenance of the turf. So just a question is, are we getting some type of guarantee or maintenance for the turf that they're installing? And then is the maintenance our job for a period of time, or do they cover it for a certain period of time to ensure it's taken care of and installed correctly?
Yeah, so this turf installation project is expected to be a very long considered project. We're not expected to have to replace it for a very long period of time due to the quality of the turf. The company that we're using, they are still in business. They're expected to start, if this is approved, at the end of August and complete it in the fall. And then staff would be responsible for any maintenance, but we're not expecting much maintenance at all based on this project. That's why we chose to do so.
And then I did have one more. The proposal letter says that we need to provide a report to them. I can't remember what the name of it was. Asbestos report. Is that correct? We need a.
That won't be required because
It won't be, okay.
It's being installed on the turf and it's not in the building, so there's no asbestos in the ground.
Perfect. Okay, that was my last clarification. All right, thank you.
All right, any other questions on 3B? Do I hear a motion on 3B?
I'll make a motion to authorize the city manager to finalize and execute that contract.
All right.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor, let me know by that raised hand. 3D, Mr. Garcia?
Hey, so let me try to get to my page here. I'm looking at page 4 of the minutes. So this, for the record and for the public, so you're aware of what we're doing. Looking at our regular minutes from July 13th of this year. On page 4 of the minutes, it's the last page, looking at item 7A. And this was just a basic oversight, but it needs to be corrected. The vote was just left out on the 6th paragraph. At the very end, it tells the motion, it tells we had clarification from staff, but not a vote. So with that, I just move to amend page 4, paragraph 6 of the minutes by adding the following after the second sentence. The motion passed 5-0.
I'll second that.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor, let it be known by the upraised hand. It passes unanimously. All right. Now we come to ordinances, second reading. Ms. McLennan, if you'll read that in for us.
Okay, sir. Having to catch up. Ordinance number 2021-16, second reading. An ordinance amending ordinance number 2020-19, which created a Plan Development District, PDD, pursuant to Chapter 60 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Kerrville, Texas, such chapter more commonly known as the City Zoning Code, by changing the zoning and classification of a portion of the property, such property being Lot 2A, Block 1, Martin Addition, a subdivision within the City of Kerrville, Texas. Such, ooh, where am I at? and more commonly known as 3008 Riverside Drive, from being part of the PDD to a single-family residential R1 zoning district. And there are no citizen speakers signed up.
Okay, since this is the second reading, there's no staff presentation. Council, do you have any questions or comments?
Just to clarify, nothing's been changed since first reading?
No, no. All right, do I hear a motion on this item?
I'll move that we approve ordinance number 2021-16 on the second reading.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion second. All in favor, let it be known by the raised hand. All right, and it passes unanimously. And 4B, Ms. McElhannon.
Ordinance number 2021-17, second reading. An ordinance annexing an approximate 5.556 acre tract of land, said tract out of James H. Koch, survey number 144, abstract number 95. The Thomas L. Waddle survey number 145, abstract number 354, and a portion that exists as part of the Lehman Drive North, a Kerr County road, into the corporate limits of the city of Kerrville, Texas, said tract being located within the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city of Kerrville, Texas, Kerr County, Texas, and more commonly known as 160 and 170 Lehman Drive, further describing the property to be annexed, adopting the service agreement for the property annexed, and establishing the zoning for the property annexed. And there are no citizen speakers signed up.
All right, I am going to ask Mr. Hoppy if you would explain a little bit about this item, because I think it's significant and there are probably people here that wouldn't recognize it by the ordinance.
Sure, and I'd be happy to also bring up Mr. Paxton. Essentially, this is an annexation of an area that has been requested to come into the city. It's right across from the existing city limits along Lehman Drive. It is proposed to become a senior facility that will essentially have a multifamily housing complex that will be age restricted to, I believe, 55 or older. They've come a number of times before the council, in fact, several years ago, before the council to have a resolution of support in order to go before the state to receive some advantageous tax credit elements related to federal taxes. And so that has taken a number of years to progress through the process and approval process, and they are continuing to proceed with their development. And this is the annexation phase, which would actually allow them to bring them into the city and also allow for the provision of utility services in that area.
Let me just add that this is a company that does these tax-assisted projects. So you got federal involvement, state involvement, and then city. But they do a very nice job of these facilities. And this one on Lehman will have most of that project will be for lower income people that qualify. There'll be some that is not just low income, but they do a great job. And they're also doing another project, a multifamily project over on Pascal and Holdsworth. And it's going to be both a very nice addition to our community. Have I taken all your words there, Mr. Paxton? That's perfect. Okay, all right.
And I also got an email from Mr. Miller, just informing us that he wouldn't be here tonight, but would you allow me to share a portion of that of that email?
Yeah.
It won't take long. And I had it pulled up and now it's not. Did I accidentally delete that? I wanted to read it word for word and I bet I just hit delete on accident because it was up.
Summarize it.
The summary is that Mr. Miller wanted to thank us for the resolution of support and to let us know that the Holdsworth project did get approval. Just
good.
from the state this week.
Awesome.
So that was exciting.
Very
It's a
good.
very difficult process to get the state approval, but they've done it, and they've done these projects around the state and around the Midwest. All right. Any council questions in regard to this?
It's a good project, and I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2021-17 on the second reading.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion second. All in favor, if you'd let it be known by the raised hands. Okay, and it passes. All right, now we come to 5A, a resolution. If you'll read that in, Ms. McElhannon.
Resolution number 35-2021, a resolution providing for the city's approval or disapproval of the Kerr Central Appraisal District's fiscal year 2022 budget. And there are no citizen speakers signed up.
Or no?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Do we have the chief appraiser with us tonight?
Where do you want me there?
Here's fine. Well, I'll tell you what, yeah, that's fine. That's fine right there.
All right. Were you gonna bring up my sheet?
Yeah.
Do you think she might want that to
I'll tell you what,
present?
you're
think
probably
she
gonna be
should be
better
here.
over here,
Okay.
yes. Uh-huh.
How are y'all doing this evening?
Good.
Okay, this year's budget, we're looking at a total of 2.99%. We made some adjustments on salaries, and, but we've also had, our expenses go up with the mailings we're required to do. We have to do a TNT card this year, which is gonna cost us some additional funds. And of course, next year also. And what this is, I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with it, is, whenever y'all set y'all's tax rates, or Mr. Reeves does it, it's uploaded to a website. And we have to send out cards to all the taxpayers, and they'll be able to log in and see what the different rates, how it affects them. So it's something the comptrollers put in place, and when they do stuff like this, it costs us more
This
money.
new this year,
We're gonna be doing it this year.
first time.
Yes, yes. And we did not have budgeted for that last year, so we had, for this year, so we had to rearrange some stuff.
Sharon, it's just information only, really.
Yes.
Is what it is, okay.
Yes, yes, just information only, so people can know to look for these cards. It'll probably be the first or second week of August that
Is
we'll
that-
be mailing those out.
Is that the main printing cost on 1535 or 5135?
5135, that also includes appraisal notices. Everything we have to print for the taxpayers, that's required by the comptroller's office. But we did go up 2,000 on that.
That's the reason why it went
Yes,
up, right? Okay.
yes,
That's
the
what-
additional printing we have to do. And, let's see, of course, legal expenses have gone up. We had some new contracts on our appraisal for the commercial industrial, so we had an increase there of 13,000. We did last year lower a bunch of line items so we could keep a flat budget, even though we had higher contracts come in. And what I'm trying to do this year is slowly bring that stuff back up. So if y'all have any questions,
By the way, I'm sorry. I didn't introduce you. Would you give us your name and tell us your position?
Sharon Constantinidis, Chief Appraiser, Kerr.
Okay? All right.
Will you just, I have two questions.
Yes.
So the first one is you all have the certified tax rolls as of this week, is that correct?
Yes, I've already sent those over here.
Okay. And so that means that y'all are at least 95%?
Yes,
through with
I
your-
actually had my ARB do the certification on July the 9th.
Okay,
We did it earlier this year.
Okay.
If I'm at 95% overall, I can certify. I like to certify as soon as I can because I know
Helps
all
us
the
out.
entities need their
Yeah.
totals.
definitely. And I just had a question about the mapping expense that, just because it goes up and down, is that,
Yes.
I'm just curious how that
Well,
works.
when we prepared the 21 budget, it looked like we were gonna have to fund the photometry flyover by ourselves. But then I ended up getting two partners, the county and 911 joined us. So that's why that has dropped. But I also had a contract kick in last year where they went up on one of my consultants on the appraisals. So that's why you kind of see a swap there.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, you've done well holding the line
I
there.
try.
Yeah.
Close to it.
All right, any other questions?
Not to try to put you on the spot, but do you have a 2020 number of what your total budget was?
I sure do.
Find that number to me, please.
Okay, 2020, I was at $1,110,201. I also had done, let's say 2017, I kind of went ahead and ran my totals so I could show you what kind of increase we've had.
Right.
Back in 17, we were at 1,015,108. And going from 17 to 22, you're looking at a 6.35% increase over those years total.
Wow.
When I take out the $61,680, which is the debt service building when we built our new building.
Right. Okay.
Because without that, it would have been 12.43.
Increase.
Yeah,
Okay.
from 17 to 22.
Thank you.
Sharon, a question that is not related to the budget, but people contesting rates this year, was it more than last year, less than
No,
last
it's
year?
less.
It was less?
We had around 4,500 last year. This year with the late ones, about 2,500.
Big difference.
It's been lighter.
So for clarification, also on the property tax appraisals, the state comes in and audits you guys every other
Yes.
year, correct?
And they're auditing our values this year.
So this coming 2022 or a year?
21.
They are.
They've been gathering information, and we will get our report in the end of January of 22.
So they can come back to you and say you have or have not properly appraised the properties and thus may have to reevaluate your appraisal
We may
based
be
on their
looking at-
findings.
Depending.
Which is what happened a couple
we do
years
our
ago,
studies-
right?
We do our studies in-house every year.
Correct.
To see what's happening.
I just wanted to, so and that's what we got caught in a little bit. a
Right,
couple
right.
years ago.
And every other year, they'll do our valuation study.
Mm-hmm.
We also go through alternate years, what they call the MAP study. So they go through our methods, our procedures to make sure we're following the code and doing everything properly.
Do you anticipate, does your crystal ball tell you what,
I think we're okay this year,
think it'll,
from what we've
should be
seen.
pretty steady?
The market is kind of crazy right now, so, I mean, the sales we're seeing coming in right now, it's way above what we had on the first of the year, but our job is to appraise on January the 1st.
Yeah.
Councilmember Clarkson, were you talking about the protests? Is that what you're referring to when the appraisal board
You
reviews
talking
those?
about Eigner?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, so because I was looking at that, and you said it was lower.
Yes, this year's protests are lower.
Okay, so looking at line 5030, that states that due to the high number of protests, that's why that line item is increased. Can you
Because
explain that?
I was over last year on that line item by $23,000.
Okay.
Because of the large number of protest hearings we had. This year was more comparable to what we had in 2019. So I looked at, I checked to see what we had spent in 2019 and used that number for 22, which I'm hoping should be pretty much in line.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Is there a motion on this matter?
I will move that we approve resolution number 35-2021 to approve the Kerr Central Appraisal District's fiscal year 2022 budget.
All right, do you have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, let it be known by the upraised hands. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
know,
Sharon.
I've concluded once again that you have a very easy, stressless job.
Oh, of course, of course.
Everybody loves it.
Yeah.
No stress at all.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, 5B, if you will read that in.
Resolution number 34-2021, a resolution authorizing the transfer of the ownership of funds from the City of Kerrville to the City of Kerrville Employee Benefit Trust to pay for employee-related group benefits for fiscal year 2022, and there are no citizen speakers signed up.
Okay, our CFO is going to go through this for us. Ms. Meisner. I'm sorry. Yeah, not CFO. Human Resources Director. Okay.
I didn't think he had that
Executive
authority.
Director of General Operations.
he's overstepping his authority.
Not that one. Okay, we're gonna talk a little bit about employee benefits. You did just go into a workshop and approve the employee benefits details as the employee benefit trust, but now you have a different job as a council.
Yeah, so just for clarification, what we had an open meeting and we were trustees of a trust, and now we're coming with our council hats on, which I know you'll explain in there.
Yes.
Just as you'll explain.
Yes. Okay, so in 2008, July 2008, the city council established an employee benefit trust. What that is Chapter 222002 of the Texas Insurance Code puts in imposes a 1.75% tax on insurers for gross premiums received by their policyholders. Those can be exempt by a municipality, county, or hospital district if that municipality, county, or hospital district establishes a Chapter 172 risk pool. In July, like I said, July 2008, the City Council approved a resolution to create the Employee Benefit Trust. The next slide is going to show you how much we've saved since 2009, since FY 2009, and that total number is $601,490 just by not having to pay those taxes. Oops. Okay, so we went out to bid, as we do every year, for our employee benefits. We only received 2 benefits for our medical insurance. Blue Cross Blue Shield is the one that we have currently, and they came in at a 13.3% increase. The plan was the same as the current plan that we have, so we were happy about that part, but not the 13.3% increase. United Healthcare was our second bid, and they gave us a best and final offer of a 6.4% increase. And they call it with package savings. So what they wanted to do was they wanted to take all our other benefits as well, our dental, our vision, our life, our AD&D, and our short-term disability as well, and have it all under their umbrella. They also had various plan changes in addition to no out-of-network benefits. So even though most of the network was good for Kerrville, if somebody was traveling, they didn't have any network benefit. They would not have any out-of-network benefits if we moved to United Healthcare. These bids came in high because of our loss ratio is at 86.3%. Our loss ratio is based on premiums paid versus claims paid. So the premiums that we pay monthly versus the claims that are submitted to the insurance company from the employees getting medical attention. We negotiated with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they gave us a best and final offer with package savings. Now they currently have our package savings, so they have our dental, our vision, our life and AD&D, and our short-term disability. So with the package savings, with everything except for the vision plan, because we wanted to move that because we got a better bid, it was a 5% increase and no plan changes. So it's approximately $151,000, and that will include the dental, the life, AD&D, voluntary life AD&D, and short-term disability. And again, those are all the same rates and plans. The vision plan, we would like to move to Vision Service Plan. They offer a better network and better benefits at a cheaper cost. So with that said, as you're with your city council hats on today, or right now, the council action is due to the taken by the trustees of the City of Kerrville Employee Benefit Trust to approve the FY 2022 employee benefit plans. Staff recommends council adopt resolution number 34-2021, approving the transfer of funds from the City of Kerrville to the City of Kerrville Employee Benefit Trust to pay for the FY 2022 employee benefits in an amount not to exceed $8,815 per employee. I know that's a long motion. Is there any questions?
We need to add one word. The third line up, City of Kerrville benefit. It should say Employee Benefit Trust.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So we'll just include that in the motion.
Yes, sir.
All right, council questions.
Good job of negotiating.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
So
Do we have any speakers?
No, sir.
Okay. All right.
Okay. I will move then that we approve resolution number, now I'm going to read a little bit different than this, but it says the same thing. Okay. All right. I move that we approve resolution number 34-2021, authorizing the transfer of the ownership of funds from the City of Kerrville to the City of Kerrville Employee Benefit Trust to pay for employee-related group benefits for fiscal year 2022 in an amount not to exceed $8,815 per employee.
Second.
Yeah, all right, we got a motion second. All in favor, if you let it be known by the raised hand. Okay, thank you. You can see why we do a good job in terms of keeping employees. It's a good plan. Okay, 5C, if you would read that in, Ms. McLennan.
Review of declaration of local state of disaster due to a public health emergency, March 20th, 2020. And there are no citizen speakers signed up.
Right. Mr. Hoppy?
Mayor, we don't have any change recommended for this resolution at this time. As you mentioned earlier, there has been an uptake both locally as well as statewide in the number of COVID cases and particularly COVID hospitalizations. In addition to that, the governor has not amended his emergency declaration statewide at this time.
Yeah, okay. All right, any questions, council or anyone else?
Is the city still receiving anything?
So we are actually continuing to work through the TDM process on elements that have been applied for in the past in regards to reimbursements related to COVID-19. And so we're continuing to work through that with them. And again, not knowing what the future holds, we're trying to maintain that flexibility on that in the future.
And with the Texas Department of Human Services, Health Services, making $150 million available, August 4, we've got to have in an application if we decide to do that, but that would be related to this declaration as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay, anyone signed up?
No, sir.
Okay. Do I hear a motion on that item?
There's no motion needed on this
No,
item,
right,
unless there's a change
right,
that's recommended by
okay.
council.
Okay, information discussion, financial update.
Good evening, last but not least. So I want to give you a quick update. These are financials as of the end of June 2021. Really looking good in the general fund, so we are better than budget a little bit on property tax. If you remember last time we talked, we were running a little behind budget, primarily due to a lot of extra partial pays that we had, and those are catching up. That deadline was June 30th. So we are seeing that catch up as that deadline has come and gone. Sales tax continues to be strong. In June, we had an increase of 13% over last year's sales tax. That is for April sales. And not reflected on here, we have since received July sales tax, and that was a little slightly lower at 5.4%, but still really strong. Retail, food service, and wholesale were the biggest.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, were there any anomalies or double payments or anything like that?
There wasn't any, there were no outstanding outside of normal parameter payments or refunds or anything like that. No audit payments, anything that we've seen. We've only seen that in 1 month this year where we saw a really large audit payment that threw us kind of out of kilter on our percentage, but everything else seems to be very straight line, and we look at it really close every month by taxpayer all the way down to about, $1,500 or so. So just looks like we have consistent growth in those areas, which is really good. We are ahead of budget on expenses, but keep in mind, we're going into paving season right now, so we expect to see a lot more expenses coming for that pretty soon. So overall, net of 1.8 million right now, largely driven by that $900,000 better than budget sales tax. So more to come on that. Sorry, I didn't flip this because I added it. Simply my comments. Moving on to the water fund. As you know, we've had a lot of rainfall. We're not really seeing an impact of that yet because we do bill a month behind. So as we progress into the next couple of billing cycles, we'll be able to see what that impact has been exactly. But basically, water sales are flat, which is kind of good considering the amount of rainfall we've had in the last few months. Like I said, more to come on that. Sewer revenues are better than budget, but keep in mind that's driven a lot by a residential sewer average. That's a stable revenue source as opposed to a water revenue that's very volatile, that's weather dependent with irrigation and those bigger factors that drive those numbers. Supplies and maintenance expense continues to be less than budget. However, we are in summer, so we do see a lot of things change often when we start going into these late summer months with additional chemicals and those things. And again, weather has a lot to do with that. Okay, so moving on to other funds. Development Services Fund is a little bit behind budget. It's largely due to some delayed projects or pending projects. We've been over this budget. They expect to finish the budget and finish the year within budget, so we don't see any problems there. The Golf Fund, if you've driven by there today, you know what's going on over there. It's really a busy place. I
This
drove
is
by
a
there
big
earlier.
deal, by the way.
It's a huge deal.
This is this the first year we've been in the red?
We did have
the
one
black?
year.
Black in the black. Black. Red's bad, black's good. Black in the black.
We did have one year, almost 10 years ago now, where we had one of the regional courses was closed, and so we saw a lot of traffic carryover from that.
Fantastic.
They're doing a great job out there.
Yeah.
They really are. I mean, course conditions are phenomenal. We're just getting lots of good reports from that, and they just stay busy every day. And whenever you talk to them or go over there, the course is just really busy. So, doing really a lot better than budget there. So, we expect to just keep making some improvements to make the course better. Same story on hotel occupancy tax. I know we talked a little bit about this at the last budget workshop. We'll have, a good number for you for the end of July yet, but I'll bring that, of course, next month. But revenues are better than budget. I think we've rebounded from post-COVID closures and things really well. We right now have 52 short-term rental payers on the books, so not a large number, but it does have an impact as people are getting more educated and finding out their responsibilities. I think they were out there before, just now doing what they're supposed to do. Yes?
No,
Sorry.
go ahead.
So we do have better than budget and expenses, but keep in mind, we're still in early 2021. We had a few events that were canceled that were scheduled to be funded out of the hot fund too. So we do have some extra revenues from there, or extra savings. That is all I have. Anybody have any questions on any of those items?
Do we have a way of knowing, dividing out of hotel tax, hotel motel from vacation rental?
We do an analysis. I mean, when we receive funds, it's received by payer, so we can tell where money is coming from. And so we do an analysis of that every month to see what is our growth, hotel to hotel. And then we package short-term rentals as a bundle, I guess, for just comparing revenue. And we only look at single units when we're talking about short-term rentals. So if you have, some multi-unit rentals that aren't necessarily a hotel, we're grouping them in hotels because they're performing well. And so we're kind of signaling them out as well. So we have a pretty good analysis of that we do every month at the end of the month.
Okay. Council, other questions?
No, just good report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, do we have any speakers?
Mr. Garcia.
Yeah, Mr. Garcia.
Do you have the numbers or any information on both our general asset replacement fund and the water asset replacement fund?
As of right now, no, I do not with me. Is there something specific that you want? Because I can certainly get that to you.
Just the numbers on those, like you provide here, just the specific line item for those.
Yep, I can add that to the report in general.
Thank you.
Any other questions, council?
Julie.
Okay, do we have any speakers signed up?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Okay, items for future agendas.
I guess I have two. One of them is a legislative update. Yesterday, and I've attended a couple of meetings where other government bodies have this, but yesterday specifically I attended a meeting of our KISD school board, and I think it was their attorney, gave a policy/legislative update, and the information was basically what happened at the most recent legislative session that applies to our government body and what changes are made and that may need to be public information or, information that would be beneficial for the public to know, whether it's any type of policy changes or how our government works. And so if probably in the first or second meeting in September on a regular meeting, if that's possible to have something like that. I know we usually get TML updates on those bills that passed or that are proposed. If we can have kind of a consolidated report on that, I'd like to see that.
All right, let me ask, Ms. Hayes, what would your recommendation be on how we handle that in a council meeting, in a workshop? But I think Mr. Garcia is also wanting information out to the public.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, like, at a regular meeting, they can attend or we can have it recorded, not have to create a document to put out to the public,
Oh, okay, all right.
to have that report out.
Okay, so a legislative update in one of the regular meetings of the council. Do we have a second to that? And I will second that. And any discussion?
I'd just like to ask, is that something staff time readily available? Because I know that we get policy updates as on when we need to make those changes. I'm just concerned with the amount of staff time, but you may have a compilation of all of that that's easy to put together, or not. So I would like just to ask you as the person that's being asked to do this.
Staff's not real pleased with me because I just pushed out like a 50,
So he has it, is that what you're
60-page
saying?
document last week. And so what I'll do is, I will get you all that document. I just want the record to reflect, I sent that last year and I got no comments back because, I mean, it's a large document. And what I do is I break down what TML's given us, but then why don't we hit the highlights in September, to this body and we'll go from there.
So it'd be an information piece
Sure.
in a council
Right.
meeting?
Right.
Okay.
So,
All right. So
just
we
to
got-
clarify, it's an informational piece. Are you looking for that in a regular business meeting, or are you looking for that in a workshop meeting?
I think the motion is in the council. Yeah, okay.
Hopefully, I don't think it'll take too long, just an information discussion piece. No
Yeah.
action needed.
And again, what we've got is about 60 pages, so it'll take a pretty lengthy amount of time,
Okay.
depending on how
Mr.
in
Hayes?
depth.
If you do like the highlights of it.
I'll do the highlights.
Yeah.
I'll get it to you all in between now and then. If you want me to touch on something specifically, I'll be happy to do that.
So
but then
you'll get us a 60-page from
Yes.
Texas
Yes, I will.
legislature.
Right. And then I'll hit the highlights in September.
Don't send the 60 page.
I'll take it. I'm not afraid of it. Go
Don't
ahead.
open it.
Yeah.
Uh,
You'll email it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay, thank you.
All right.
But
Okay.
to be clear, for your intent, it's just a public information piece. It's not a discussion item that would be more in a workshop setting where we would sit and talk about potential things. You're just asking for information. to
Right.
be
Unless there's anything that we would need to change, but I don't think there is. But yeah, just an information piece.
Okay.
Like the financial update was, just like something like that.
So it's a discussion item. Okay. We've got a motion second. All in favor of this, let me know by the raised hand. And it passes, and opposition by same sign. Okay? All right, and your second item?
Oh, that'll be it. Thank
Okay,
you.
all right, okay. All right, we're not having an executive session tonight. So let me say this. I want to thank you for the citizen involvement in this meeting. The numbers of people here, your obvious interest, I thank you for that.
We need to restructure to get them some more seats the next time.
Yeah, well, also what we've done in the past is do a remote session upstairs, but we'll see. Okay, we're adjourned.